Snoozecast, a podcast designed to help you fall asleep. Find us on snoozecast.com and follow us on Instagram at snoozecast to find behind-the-scenes content. If you enjoy our show, please write a review on the Apple Podcasts app. Please know that we read and appreciate every single one. This episode is brought to you by our Patreon supporters and by Cloaks and Crystals. Tonight, we'll read the next part to our Magic Cloak series from the book Queen Zixi of Ix, or The Story of the Magic Cloak, a children's book written by L. Frank Baum and published in 1905. The Magic Cloak Episode 1 aired on November 11th, 2019. If you'd like to listen to this continuing story easily in order, go to snoozecast.com/series. The events of the book alternate between Noland and Ix, two neighboring regions to the land of Oz. Baum, who also wrote The Wizard of Oz, commented this was the best book he had written. In the last episode, Tillydib, the Lord High Purse-bearer, is wearing the cloak when he wishes the royal purse would never run out of coins. Then we're introduced to the beautiful witch Queen Zixi. Her one weakness is that her true face shows in mirrors, so she has them all hidden. When she learns about the magic cloak, she sets out to steal it, in order to never have to see how ugly she really looks. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. Chapter 12. Zixi disguises herself. Now, as might be expected, Queen Zixi lost no time in endeavoring to secure the magic cloak. The people of Ix were not on friendly terms with the people of Noland, so she could not visit Princess Fluff openly, and she knew it was useless to try to borrow so priceless a treasure as a cloak which had been the gift of the fairies. But one way remained to her: to steal the precious robe. So she began her preparations by telling her people she would be absent from Ix for a month. And then she retired to her own room and mixed, by the rules of witchcraft, a black mess in a silver kettle, and boiled it until it was as thick as molasses. Of this inky mixture, she swallowed 2 teaspoonfuls every hour for 6 hours, muttering an incantation each time. At the end of the 6 hours, her golden hair had become brown, and her black eyes had become blue, and this was quite sufficient to disguise the pretty queen so that no one would recognize her. Then She took off her richly embroidered queenly robes and hung them up in a closet, putting on a simple gingham dress, a white apron, and a plain hat such as common people of the country wore. When these preparations had been made, Zixi slipped out the back door of the palace and walked through the city to the forest. And although she met many people, no one suspected that she was the queen. It was rough walking in the forest, but she got through at last and reached the bank of the river. Here, a fisherman was found. He consented to ferry her across in his boat, and afterward Zixi climbed the high mountain and came down the other side into the kingdom of Noland. She rented a neat little cottage just at the north gateway of the city of Nole, and by the next morning there was a sign over the door which announced Miss Trust's Academy of Witchery for Young Ladies. Then Zixi had printed on green paper a lot of handbills which read as follows: Miss Trust, a pupil of the celebrated Professor Hatrack of Hooktown on the Creek, is now located at Woodbine Villa, North Gateway of Nole, and is prepared to teach the young ladies of this city the arts of witchcraft according to the most modern and approved methods. Terms moderate. References required. These handbills she hired a little boy to carry to all the aristocratic houses in Nole, and to leave one on each doorstep. Several were left on the different doorsteps of the palace, and one of these came to the notice of Princess Fluff. "How funny," she exclaimed on reading it. "I'll go and take all my 8 maids with me. It will be no end of fun to learn to be a witch." Many other people in Nole applied for instruction in Miss Trust's academy, but Zixi told them all she had no vacancies. When, however, Fluff and her maids arrived, she welcomed them with the utmost cordiality and consented to give them their first lesson at once. When she had seated them in her parlor, Zixi said, "If you wish to be a witch, you must speak an incantation. You must, with deliberation, say, 'The Wen of Y is which.'" "What does that mean?" asked Fluff. "No one knows," answered Zixi, "and therefore it is a fine incantation. Now, all the class will please repeat after me the following words: Rigmarole, Rigamaree, Jiggernut, Joggernut, Q-Jiggery, Simmerkin, Sammerkin, Semmergaroo, Zillipop, Zellipop, Lollipop Loo. They tried to do this, but their tongues stumbled constantly over the syllables, and one of the maids began to laugh. "Stop laughing, please," cried Zixi, rapping her ruler on the table. "This is no laughing matter, I assure you, young ladies. The science of witchcraft is a solemn and serious study, and I cannot teach it to you unless you behave." "But what's it all about?" asked Fluff. "I'll explain what it's about tomorrow," said Zixi with dignity. "Now, here are 2 important incantations which you must learn by heart before you come to tomorrow's lesson. If you can speak them correctly and rapidly, and above all, very distinctly, I will then allow you to perform a wonderful witchery." She handed them each a slip of paper, on which were written the incantations, as follows. Incantation number 1. To be spoken only in the presence of a black cat. This is that, and that is this. Bliss is blessed, and blessed is bliss. Who is that, and what is who? Shed is shod, and shud is shoe. Incantation number 2. To be spoken when the clock strikes 12. What is which, and which is what? Pat is pet, and pit is pat. Hid is hide, and hod is hid. Did is deed, and done is did. Now, there is one more thing, continued Zixi, and this is very important. You must each wear the handsomest and most splendid cloak you can secure when you come to me tomorrow morning. This request made Princess Fluff thoughtful all the way home, for she at once remembered her magic cloak and wondered if the strange Miss Trust knew she possessed it. She asked Bud about it that night, and the young king said, "I'm afraid this witch woman is someone trying to get a hold of your magic cloak. I would advise you not to wear it when she is around, or more than likely, she may steal it." So Fluff did not wear her magic cloak the next day, but selected in its place a pretty blue cape edged with gold. When she and her maids reached the cottage, Zixi cried out angrily, "That is not your handsomest cloak. Go home at once and get the other one." "I won't," said Fluff, shortly. "You must, insisted the witch woman. "I can teach you nothing unless you wear the other cloak." "How did you know I had another cloak?" asked the princess, suspiciously. "By witchcraft, perhaps," said Zixi, mildly. "If you want to be a witch, you must wear it." "I don't want to be a witch," declared Fluff. "Come, girls, come. Let's go home at once." Wait, implored Zixi eagerly. "If you'll get the cloak, I will teach you the most wonderful things in the world. I'll make you the most powerful witch that ever lived." "I don't believe you," replied Fluff. And then she marched back to the palace with all her maids. But Zixi knew her plot had failed, so she locked up the cottage and went back again to Ix, climbing the mountain and crossing the river and threading the forest with angry thoughts and harsh words. Yet the queen was more determined than ever to secure the magic cloak. As soon as she had re-entered her palace, and by more incantations had again transformed her hair to yellow and her eyes to black, and dressed herself in her royal robes, she summoned her generals and counselors and told them to make ready to war upon the kingdom of Noland. Chapter 13. Tillydib rescues the kingdom. All soldiers love to fight, so when the army of Ix learned that they were to go to war, they rejoiced exceedingly over the news. They polished up their swords and battle axes, and sewed all the missing buttons on their uniforms, and mended their socks, and had their hair cut, and were ready to march as soon as the queen was ready to have them start. King Bud of Noland had an army of 7,777 men, besides a general 10 feet high. But the Queen of Ix had an army more than twice as big, and she decided to lead it in person, so that when she had conquered the city of Noel, she herself could seize the precious magic cloak which she so greatly coveted. Therefore, Queen Zixi rode out at the head of her army, clad in a suit of mail, with a glittering helmet upon her head that was surmounted by a flowing white plume. And all the soldiers cheered their queen, and had no doubt at all that she would win a glorious victory. Quavo, the minstrel, who wandered about constantly, was on his way to Noland again, and while Queen Zixi's army was cutting a path through the forest and making a bridge to cross the river, he came speedily by a little-known path to the city of Noel, where he told Tillydib, the Lord High Counselor, what was threatening his king. So, trembling, Tillydib hastened to the palace and called a meeting of the 5 high counselors in the king's antechamber. When all were assembled, together with Bud and Fluff, the old man told his news and cried, "It's going to be terrible, for the army of Ix is twice as big as our own. Yes, twice as big." "Oh, pooh, what of that?" said Tillydib scornfully. "Have they a general as tall as I am?" "Certainly not," said the chief counselor. "Whoever saw a man as tall as you are?" Then I'll fight and conquer them, declared Tillydib, rising and walking about the room so that all might see where his head just grazed the ceiling. But you can't, General. You can't fight an army by yourself, remonstrated Tillydib excitedly. And being so big, you're better to aim at. At this, the general sat down rather suddenly and grew pale. Perhaps we can buy them off, remarked the Lord High Purse Bearer, jingling the purse that now never became empty. No, I'm afraid not, sighed Tillydib. Quavo the minstrel said they were bent upon conquest and were resolved upon a battle. And their queen is a witch, added Tillydib nervously. We must not forget that. A witch? Exclaimed Princess Fluff with sudden interest. What does she look like? But all shook their heads at the question, and Tillydib explained, None of us have ever seen her, for we have never been friendly with the people of Ix. But from all reports, Queen Zixi is both young and beautiful. Maybe it's the one who wanted to teach me witchcraft in order to steal my magic cloak, said Fluff with sudden excitement. And when she found she couldn't steal it, she went back after her army. What magic cloak do you refer to? Asked Tillydib. Why, the one the fairies gave me, replied Fluff. Is it of gorgeous colors with golden threads running through it? Asked the Lord High General, now thoroughly interested. Yes, said the princess, the very same. And what particular powers does it possess? Why, it grants its wearer the fulfillment of one wish, she answered. All the high counselors regarded her earnestly. Then that was the cloak I wore when I wished to be 10 feet high, said Tillydib. And I wore it when I wished I could reach the apple, said Tillydib. And I wore it when I wished that my dog Ruffles could speak, said Tillydib. And I wore it when I wished the royal purse would always remain full, said Tillydib. I did not know that, remarked Fluff thoughtfully. But I'll never forget that I lent it to Aunt Rivette, and that was the time she wished she could fly. Why, it's wonderful, cried old Tillydib. Has it granted you also a wish? Yes, said Fluff brightly, and I've been happy ever since. And has your brother, the king, had a wish? Tillydib inquired eagerly. No, said Bud. I can still have mine. Then why doesn't your majesty wear the cloak and wish that your army shall conquer the Queen of Ixes? Asked the Lord High Counselor. I'm saving my wish, answered Bud, and it won't be that either. But unless something is done, we shall all be destroyed, protested Tillydib. Then wear the cloak yourself, said Bud. You haven't had a wish yet. Good, cried the 4 other counselors. And the Lord High General added, that will surely save us from any further worry. I'll fetch the cloak at once, said Fluff. And she ran quickly from the room to get it. Supposing, Tillydib remarked hesitatingly, the magic power shouldn't work? Oh, but it will, answered the general. I'm sure it will, said the steward. I know it will, declared the purse bearer. It cannot fail, answered the executioner. Remember what it's already done for us. Then Fluff arrived with the cloak, and after considering carefully how he would speak his wish, the Lord High Counselor drew the cloak over his shoulders and said solemnly, I wish that we shall be able to defeat our enemies and drive them all from the kingdom of Noland. Didn't you make 2 wishes instead of 1? Asked the princess anxiously. Never mind, said the general. If we defeat them, it will be easy enough to drive them from our kingdom. The Lord High Counselor removed the cloak and carefully refolded it. If it grants my wish, said he thoughtfully, it will indeed be lucky for our country that the Princess Fluff came to live in the palace of the king. The queen formed her men into a line of battle facing the army of Noel. And they were so numerous in comparison with their enemies that even the more timorous soldiers gained confidence and stood up straight and threw out their chests as if to show how brave they were.